Hi, this is Pete Sirianni, editor here at the Newcastle News. We're trying some different things out with video, so here's a week in review for this week. One of our main stories from this week was Keith L. Burley being sentenced to 2 life sentences in prison for the death of 8-year-old Marky Mason. Reporter Debbie Wachter has been all over that story for the last couple years. She was in the courtroom Tuesday morning. That story ran in Wednesday's newspaper. Burley obviously sentencing and convicted in the gruesome death of 8-year-old Marky Mason. Another top story, Newcastle Area School District, another Debbie Wachter story. The school board in a split vote approved the hire of Rick Rossi as a consultant to the incoming superintendent on an as-needed basis through the end of the first semester, which ends sometime in January. Rossi, as you know, is the interim superintendent already in the Newcastle Area School District. As a consultant, whenever he's called upon, he'll make $851 a day, which is also his daily rate as the interim superintendent. The incoming superintendent, Greg Palladina from Phillipsburg Osceola School District in Center County, he is set to begin his tenure in Newcastle on October 2nd. That's his projected start date. And another story we covered on Wednesday night, we had some quick photos in the Thursday morning newspaper from the 43rd Annual Lawrence County Band Festival. So again, we had a couple photos in the newspaper on Thursday. We have a full gallery online on our website right now. If you go on there, ncnewsonline.com. On Monday morning, in Monday morning's newspaper, we're going to have a bigger spread of photos. We'll have at least one from each school. Tiffany Wolf, our longtime photographer, was there and covered everything for us. So definitely make sure to check out everything from that and everything that we covered throughout the week. And you can do all that by going on to ncnewsonline.com, getting a paper out of the box at a convenience store, or checking us out on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X. Wherever you are, we are. That's what's happening in Newcastle. For a look at what's happening in the state capitol, here is our Harrisburg reporter, Eric Scicchitano.
Hey, I'm Eric Scicchitano with CNHI Pennsylvania, and here's a quick look back at some of the happenings across the Commonwealth this week. Republican David McCormick formally announced his intent to challenge U.S. Senator Bob Casey, a Democrat, in next year's Senate election. With that announcement comes renewed scrutiny as to whether or not McCormick is actually a resident of Pennsylvania. In the Pennsylvania Capitol, state senators returned to session. Among the 13 bills they voted to approve this past week was one that proposes to move next year's primary election from April 25th to March 19th. Supporters say they're pursuing it in an effort to make Pennsylvania more relevant in the presidential primary election cycle. Another bill looks to give permanency to changes intended to ease the hiring of substitute teachers. Tacked onto the bill, one that only received affirmative votes, was an amendment authorizing, among other things, the spending of $100 million on mental health supports in public schools. Both bills now await consideration in the State House. Other bills getting committee consideration in the Senate this past week included one that would further ban smoking tobacco or vaping tobacco in practically all public spaces, and another bill that would require parental or guardian consent for anyone under age 16 to open a social media account. And speaking of the House, a special election in Allegheny County was won by Democrat Lindsey Powell. It was the 6th such election this year for the House. Democrats won 5, Republicans won 1, and the results of all seem to be expected. But the victory again does clinch the Democrats' 1-seat voting majority that they've clung on to all year. And House members return to session this Tuesday. Among the outstanding business are code bills to authorize certain spending that is included in the state's new budget. And one other thing to note about elections, Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro enacted automatic voter registration. So the change is made in a way that when you go to the driver's license center for a new license or to renew a license, if you're not already registered, you'll automatically be registered to vote. In the past, you could opt into that. Now you'll have to opt out if, for whatever reason, you don't want to be registered. And Republicans were opposed to it on the grounds that they saw it as an end around the legislative process. Lastly, if you're traveling through the Sunbury area watch out for mink. Some institutional vandals let loose up to thousands of these mink from a mink farm, and they're running all over a rural area outside of Sunbury, and it's caused quite a bit of chaos for people who live in that immediate area. That's all I have for now. See you next week.
Hey, Lawrence County, is Cody Pattison. We're doing a quick review of tonight's game that I covered, and that was Union at Laurel for a Big 7 conference game. The Scotties pulled away with the win 33-14 with a strong first quarter. Laurel's defense started improving there, but they just couldn't catch up around halftime. Talked with Coach Brian Cooper, and he just said he hopes they keep getting experience, improving, maturing, and hopefully they'll make it to the playoffs, is what he told me. Coach Sneedballa talked about trying to maintain that big play. The first score that they got was a 3-play drive, and it's like, showing that you have the bomb and you're willing to drop it. But he talked about you have to be continuous and keep that momentum going, which they kind of fell back on. But nonetheless, it was a good win for the Scotties tonight. Union is 2-0 now in the conference, and they are 4-1. Laurel is now 0-1 in the conference. This was their first conference game, and now they are 1-4 overall. I'll write my story now.